All right, welcome back to the welcome back to the Puck Pitches Pigskins podcast live here from the Media Hub on Riot Radio. I'm your host Drake Varley, and if this is your first time watching the show, we talk about baseball, hockey, and I guess now a little bit of football, but now we're recently talking about the World Cup. Some fun stories, some analytical-driven stories, and just some hot takes and my thought process on my favorite teams and teams around the respective leagues. Today we're going to be kind of jumping into the NHL draft, the crazy offseason that has already gone on, and we're not even in July yet. I know July's tomorrow, but free agency hasn't even opened, and there's so many players who have been moved around, and it's interesting. It's exciting, and for the MLB, obviously Canada Day baseball tomorrow. Patrick Corbin on the hill for the Jays tomorrow. Bo Bichette back in. It's really nice to see him come back in and get to play on Canada Day from the other side. So we'll talk about that. And then obviously Canada in the round of 16 in the World Cup now. That it's a huge accomplishment for that sport. And as for, American football, it's getting there. We're almost at preseason where we can start talking a little bit more about who's going to win the Super Bowl. Like realistically, I know preseason's a bit of a jump, but we could talk about that as well. So we just had the draft last Friday, and it was kind of a gong show of a draft. There was a lot of unprofessionalism from everyone. I mean, Justin Bieber just not even doing the traditional with the number one pick. The Toronto Maple Leafs are proud to announce Gavin McKenna. He just Mr. McKenna, like. I don't know. I didn't like it, especially considering it's a pivotal move for the franchise in the future of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it kind of just got ran amok of. Love Biebs, great guy. Just, yeah, it is a weird situation. And then afterwards, bringing Layla Edwards, the San Jose's number one round draft pick, out to announce pick number 2 was really cool. She got a nice reception even when she came out back for pick number 9. The fans in Buffalo at the draft were really nice. You could tell there was a lot of Sabres fans there. And obviously with them having that 4th pick, when the Bowen Byram trade, we will talk. There was a lot of things that happened between the last episode and today's episode. Let's start, though, kind of just with the draft. I'm going to name the top 5 picks, and I'm going to kind of grade them based on what I feel, just because, we could start with McKenna as a Leafs fan. I do feel like McKenna is the census number 1 overall pick in the NHL draft this year, and then whoever took McKenna would just be landed another, like not generational, because that term is used a little loosely, but a really elite player, a complete player. Like I was talking to a few friends and a few analysts as well, just going from a perspective of what the Leafs usually go for in terms of drafting when they have an analytical-driven general manager, which they do in China. When Dubas would kind of well balance his draft, and that's kind of what the Leafs did. But McKenna has a lot of very high ceiling as a player. Just he's not 100% there. He's going to play in the NHL this year. There's going to be no doubt about that. But if you want an NHL ready player who can kind of provide an impact right away, that's kind of where you look at with Ivar Stenberg. And I think San Jose did a terrific job kind of understanding that with the Eklund trade. Again, we'll jump into it very, very. Like, this is going to be a very heavy hockey episode because there's just so much going on, and I really want to cover a lot more hockey about it. So, McKenna, obviously, census pick, worked out perfectly. He's going to be the Mitch Marner replacement just from the left-hand side. He's going to really fill in the holes and the spacing that this team needed to fill in on the wing, too. I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Leafs actually lacked wingers, this past season. Usually we need more center depth. And we got, I'm not going to say a first-line winger right now. I don't think they're going to put him on a line with Matthews in the first week of the season. I think he's going to have to earn his right. I think Jim Hiller's going to know how to get these guys going, but he's going to earn his ability to play up. He needs to show that he can facilitate his own line by himself, with him being one of the best players on that line, then facilitate a line with a veteran guy like Nylander and Tavares, and then you can find yourself on the top line with Matthew Nyes, if he stays the Leaf, that is. There's a lot going on. Matthews, that could be your top line. But we're not here to just talk about the Leafs real quick. Number 2, Stenberg. I think we all kind of knew San Jose was gearing up to take a forward at number 2. I did say last week maybe they jumped the gun and pick a defenseman, and then they made the Eklund trade. So they clearly knew what they wanted to do. They had a plan going ahead of time. They have so much assets, so even if some of these guys don't pan out, you can still trade them. Stenberg's, like I said, more complete player than McKenna, but not as high of a ceiling as what Gavin McKenna has. So what I mean by that, he's more physical than McKenna. He's bigger bodied than McKenna. He has the better hockey IQ. But Gavin McKenna reminds me more of Nikita Kucherov than Patrick Kane. I know he was getting a lot of Patrick Kane comparisons. Way more of a Nikita Kucherov comparison from my point of view than anything else. And I just think it's because he has such good vision for passing, a pass-first guy. He can tuck it, don't get me wrong, but he's there to pass. He's going to be a pass-first player. At 3, I guess every league now, including professional league, needs a coach's son on the team, right? Caleb Malhotra going 3rd overall to the Vancouver Canucks. His father, Leafs legend, Manny Malhotra, not player Leafs legend, assistant coach Leafs legend. Now on the Vancouver Canucks Gong Show team, being their head coach. I think he could do a really good job, and I think Caleb, I'm gonna have to start saying their first names now, can really handle the job of being the coach's son, because it's a professional league now. It's not minor hockey or junior hockey. You're a professional. You have to be professional about it, with even if that is your father. I think another thing too is people need to realize that Manny Malhotra is a stepping stone for the Canucks. They haven't found that head coach yet that can lead them to a championship, because one, they're not there yet. They're not in the position where they need that kind of head coach yet. They need a guy who could develop the young guys, and I think Manny knows that. Did not know Caleb Malhotra's uncle was Steve Nash. I was like, I didn't even start seeing Steve on the broadcast. I'm like, why is Steve Nash the draft? I knew he was family friends with Celebrini, but now obviously a legit family member of the Malhotras. So cool pick. He's good. He's big, and he kind of proved himself pretty big in a big role with Brantford this year. So I'm hoping that he plays in the NHL this year. I think he's going to. I don't see a world where he doesn't. But worst case, he's going back to Brantford, who's going to be a wagon. And then you can kind of think about, how does the team look if Caleb Malhotra is your number 1 center? Does Elias Pettersson still there? There's a few other deals. They need obviously now to get a legit defenseman, and I think they'll target that in the next few drafts. And then technically it's Buffalo's pick, but Chicago traded for Bowen Byram, traded their 4th overall pick for a former 4th overall pick. I think Byram's going to be a good piece. I'll talk about the trades very, very more in depth. So I'm just mentioning how Buffalo acquired this draft pick. They take Daxton Rudolph, which for me was kind of like a whoa pick, because I didn't think he was going to go so early in the draft. I thought he was going to go where Chase Reed went. I know it's still kind of it's a 3-pick difference, but talent is really, like, after 1, 2, and 3, talent can kind of shift anywhere. So for him to go 4, good on him. He's a big boy, a huge guy. He's going to fit that blue-collar style in Buffalo. I know the Sabres they've made a few trades. Like Alex Tuck has been traded to the Washington Capitals in a sign-in trade. It's been really weird for Buffalo. They've had a good offseason, but I feel like they're going to make some splash in free agency. So that's kind of why I'm like, okay, I'm going to hold off on my judgment of what the Sabres are doing this offseason, because they definitely have a plan. And hopefully their plans get foiled a little bit, because I need the Leafs to be back in the playoffs next year. And then your 5th overall pick, Albert Smits. I kind of seen this coming. I think I thought as soon as Chase Reed fell from 4, he wasn't going to get picked at 5. Smits is a bigger defenseman, something that the Rangers need, and it kind of makes sense for the Rangers in the middle of a retool to get a bigger defenseman like that, shutdown guy, but he can have some offensive upside. And those are kind of the top 5 picks. The Rangers are kind of in a weird situation. As for the rest of the draft, like There's a cool stories about the Ruck brothers getting drafted to Pittsburgh together. Chase Reed goes to Seattle, so maybe Seattle can build a few things going with Shane Wright. I know he's at the point in his career where he needs to start figuring it out, or he might get traded. He's been in rumors for a few years now, so he needs to kind of get himself together and start playing like the Shane Wright that you say you were going to be if you went number 1 overall. Alrighty. So with that being said, done with the draft, we're going to talk about the Leafs. I know that it still has something to do with the draft, but we're going to talk about the Leafs because as of Tuesday, like last Tuesday, I was doing some research for today's show. According to TSN's Pierre LeBrun, Morgan Rielly was spoken to by management about maybe waiving or giving a team list of that for a no-trade clause, and he gave 4 teams. They weren't really stated what teams they were. It was just he gave them 4 teams in the Western Conference. I can make assumptions. I think hometown team in Vancouver was one of those teams that he was like, okay, I can go home and play. Anaheim because they're a young team and he can use that veteran leadership and maybe have a rebound there in terms of his career numbers. San Jose because he's been linked to San Jose all off season. And then the 4th and final team was the LA Kings, but I don't see LA being a thing in my head. Like they were kind of just the other team that kind of made more sense. A lot of Pacific teams because the Central is in a spot where it's kind of set. Their decors are kind of set. They're not really going to have to make much adjustment. So for me, I think it's going to probably be, as of when I read that article, as when I did that research, those were the teams I thought. I really feel like Vancouver is the most likely, or San Jose. But it does look like they're going to hang on to him this year because they got Darren Radish. Now, I've been begging, even since when I was a kid, I've been begging for the Leafs to get Rielly a puck-moving defenseman on the right with a right-handed shot, and they have finally done it with Radish. Everyone's saying Kucherov Merchant. Even if Radish is a Kucherov Merchant, we just got a Kucherov-like player number 1 in the draft. So, if he is just a merchant, which the deep analytics show he's not. It shows that he is smart with the puck. He moves it really well. He's a high hockey IQ kind of player. It shows that that's not his game. Is just dish it to one player, and they score. So I can't I'm not gonna rip on the guy. I do think he's gonna be really well for Rielly as a pairing if that's the route they go in. But this is Morgan Rielly's legit final chance, I think, this season to be a Toronto Maple Leaf. If he can't get it done with a defenseman that he's been begging for, a guy we thought Timothy Liljegren was going to be, a guy we thought Chris Tanev was going to be, but Tanev's obviously a little bit more defensive. We want Rielly's offensive production to get up there, and Radish allows that. If Rielly is going to develop a defensive stay-at-home kind of style, having a defenseman like Radish who can pinch makes sense. But if they're both going to play very offensive styles, and then McCabe and Tanev will be a nice pairing, if Tanev's fully healthy, that is, because the Leafs don't have Brendan Carlo anymore. They traded him at the draft for 2 third-round picks, which we'll jump into a little bit more deeper into those third-round picks, because I think they got an absolute steal in another defenseman. And then obviously Joseph Woll and Benoit both traded out for Emil Andraya and Samuel Ersson. Obviously, Ersson then flipped for a 5th-round pick. There's been a lot. This past week has been crazy for NHL news. And the Leafs really can go a few different directions. I think this is kind of what their decor looks like without Rielly. If you take Rielly out of the picture, it looks like this. You got Radish, Andrea, McCabe, Tanev, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I guess we can scratch Carlo off these notes because he's gone. Myers and Danford. Myers probably going to be a 7th defenseman come in for when Danford is underperforming because it's going to be his first year in the pro level of the NHL. I think he makes the team. He isn't at rookie camp right now because I think he's just gearing up to be on main camp. So, again, the Leafs are in a good spot with their decor, even without Morgan Rielly. So you add a guy who used to be a 70, 80-point guy in his career, by the way. Where is that? I don't know, but he's not he's slow, but he has the weapons around him now where he can kind of use the puck moving ability to neglect that slow feeling and that slow play style of his, and guys like McKenna will do that. Just dish it to him and watch him skate, right? I think during this offseason so far, obviously there's more moves that could be made. So far this offseason became very well-rounded as a unit, at least in our top 6 and our top 4 D pairing. Very well-rounded. What that means is, like, maybe they will mesh a bit better. Maybe we'll just make the playoffs, or we'll look a bit better. Again, I am expecting, kind of with the way the Leafs have been taking this offseason, the way Chaynica and Sundin have been kind of approaching the offseason, is for me, it does kind of look like they're going to go kind of all in to win within the Matthews era. I disagree with it, but I'm also a guy who wants to see the Leafs, compete when I'm in my 30s, and it's probably not going to happen if they keep kind of going in for all-in pushes. With that being said, if it works, it works. I will stand on that. If they are a playoff team again and they are competitive and they can win a round or two, I will be okay this season. I just don't think it's going to happen yet. I think there's still a team that is in limbo and could use a few retooling pieces. And again, getting back to the playoffs is hard, especially when you got teams breaking out the way Montreal did, the way the Sabres did. I mean, yeah, the Red Wings are a gong show, but the Bruins are still there. The Panthers are loading up again. We'll talk more about the Florida because they made a few trades like an hour before the show. Detroit, not really a threat. Buffalo is, right? I think the Leafs weren't really a threat last year, but they're gearing up to be a threat again. And Ottawa they got something going on. They're cooking something up, so I think they might still be decent. It's going to be a tough Atlantic Division. Unfortunately, there are going to be some really good teams this coming year that don't make the playoffs because of how good the division is. So, with the Carlo trade, we got a few really good, well-rounded defensemen. But one defenseman for me that stands out, we picked him in the 3rd round, Ethan McKenzie from the WHL and the Edmonton Oil Kings. Guy was point per game as a defenseman and went 3rd round. Yeah, he's undersized, but he's still growing. And I think he might, if he fills out at like 6'1", 190 pounds, could be a very, very good puck-moving defenseman. Something to look forward to. I'm being realistic. He looks like a better version of Travis Dermott. I mean, Dermott turned over the puck a lot, but he does look like a better version of what that player is. So I'm not going to go out here and say he's going to be, an elite defenseman. I'm saying he's going to be a good middle slot, maybe even bottom pairing defenseman for this team, something that they haven't had because all their weaker defensemen just aren't really that good. And then another plan that the Leafs had, I was under the impression the Leafs were going to drop this player, but Troy Stecher signed 2-year, it's about league minimum of 1.3 mil per year, kind of a similar deal to what Simone Benoit was on. I think he's going to kind of come in and play a big role. He was really good analytically with the Leafs last season, so I'm thinking that's going to roughly be about the same for him in terms of amount he's going to play, what he's supposed to do, what the expectation is for him. It's going to be about the same as what it was last season. They just wanted to keep that body on the roster. I would say, though, if the Leafs were to move on from Riley this offseason, again, all signs kind of point towards him staying, but if they are going to move on for him, you're going to have to trade him. I would say try to trade him for draft capital. I don't want to take a body back because I think we're going to have to give up draft capital to trade him because his contract's not great. So, try to get something back, like a 3rd, maybe a 2nd if you're lucky. But try to get that back for a guy who went, he's the longest tenured Maple Leaf. He knows what it's like to bleed within the blue and white. I think he could thrive in a different market within a different team. It's just maybe he's just tired of the same repeated playoff failures and the same kind of, upsettingness that is playing in Toronto sometimes. The media can kind of pick apart a locker room, and it can become extremely frustrating from a player's perspective. So that's going to wrap it up kind of for the the Toronto Maple Leafs information. We got the Blues kind of made a few trades. The Senators made a few trades. And Calgary made a good trade. New Jersey just decided, I guess, we're going to blow the team up. I don't know. They're doing something over there. Um, we're gonna start with kind of a quick little head coaching candidate being named for the Edmonton Oilers, and Mike Babcock. I can't believe I'm saying Mike Babcock is coaching hockey in 2026, but he is, and he's also coaching one of the best players, in the National Hockey League, in Connor McDavid. I wonder if he's going to ask McDavid, who's the least hardest working player on the team. No, but he is like an old school kind of head coach, something that the Oilers haven't had before. So I think you're going to see McDavid and Draisaitl put up elite numbers, but their bottom six forwards are going to be just all grit. You know, the GMs will always ask a head coach, what do you need to make this team succeed under your system? And Mike Babcock, let's kind of look back, guys like Leo Komarov, who were like big guys who didn't really have much skill, but they could do their job. He made them into really good players. He made, like, Nicholas Kronwall wouldn't be the player he was in his entire career without Mike Babcock. Like, he makes people who's Pavel Datsyuk, same kind of thing. Datsyuk was he wasn't a top end talent. He worked his way up. Same with Zetterberg, worked his way up. Zetterberg was a 7th round pick, became the team's captain, became a really good player. He takes underdogs and he makes them into really good players. The Oilers don't have a lot of that. They got a lot of first round talents. And it's going to be a weird fit. I think this won't really work out well for the Oilers. I'm just saying that because I dealt with Babcock as a Leafs fan. And, you know, they almost missed the playoffs in that COVID season right before COVID hit. They were out of a playoff spot. The only reason they made the playoffs is because they fired Babcock, made Sheldon Keefe the head coach, and then every team basically made, unless you were the bottom 5 teams in the NHL, you all made the playoffs somehow. And you were in the qualifying round, which the Leafs still lost, by the way, to the Blue Jackets. Again, he lost the dressing room within 3 years. The only team he's really stuck with is the Red Wings. Well, that's old school hockey. That hockey's over. If he can't adapt, he should just go home, man. I know he was coaching junior hockey in Saskatchewan. He was coaching junior C like 2 years ago. So for him to be back in the fold, that's great, man. You know, I'm proud that you're able to get a head coaching job given your reputation, and just don't ruin Connor McDavid. And then if you do, the Leafs will gladly take him. And now we're gonna move on to trade frenzy. To Ottawa in this trade was Will Eklund, a good playmaker, has some good defense kind of IQ in him, a winger, so something that they're kind of replacing Brady Tkachuk. He's going to play well alongside of Tim Stützle. I'm not saying Will Eklund is going to be the exact production that Brady Tkachuk would give to the team, but definitely going to be a nice and handy addition. To San Jose goes the 9th overall pick in the draft, which they took Keaton Verhoff. In my notes from Tuesday, I literally put maybe they take Keaton Verhoff. I must be a GM or something because that is bang on. And he's a good defenseman. He's mobile. He's quick. It is a good trade for San Jose because they needed that defenseman that they didn't have. You know, everyone was saying the Leafs should trade for Mario Ferraro. Mario Ferraro only has good numbers because he gets a lot of minutes. And it's easy to have decent numbers when you play 25, 27 minutes a night. Unless your name is Morgan Riley. And for the Sharks, obviously, that opened up the roster spot to take Stenberg. And bam, you replace Will Eklund with Stenberg, who's a better player than what Eklund will be. They're so smart in San Jose. They're building such a good team. They're going to be what the Florida Panthers are. Just, it's all homegrown talent. And they're going to be very good. I cannot wait to see because Celebrini, obviously, just like masterclass of a season. Then you're giving him Stenberg, who's a bigger profile, bigger body, will work hard in the corners. Maybe that gets Will Smith playing at the level that he needs to play at. I think San Jose did a tremendous job with this trade. Going on to, I don't know, this was a weird one for me. It was Jordan Kyrou to Washington, which good for Washington. They get another quick player. He's very quick, fast. I mean, like skating wise, He can shoot, he can pass. He's not really great defensively, but that can be worked on. And to St. Louis, they get an inconsistent Connor McMichael, Gastrin at defenseman, a first rounder from Washington, which will probably end up being nothing really too special because I think the Caps will find a way to get back into playoffs. Remember, Ovechkin is a pending free agent, I believe, as of tomorrow. There's no contract being given out right now. I don't think he's leaving, and if he is, he's going back to Moscow. Like, he's not playing in the NHL if he's going to leave. So they can get a nice little core built around that aging team. Another trade I have in here, John Carlson, the rights to John Carlson given to the Carolina Hurricanes. So they're clearly trying to go back-to-back. They're not doing it. They're losing in the conference final because Florida's going to win another Stanley Cup. As for this trade, it's kind of fair value for both teams. Kyrou will work really well in Washington's system. A decent haul from St. Louis, though, to get McMichael, who's a good, well-rounded center. He probably plays second-line center in St. Louis as long as Robert Thomas is there. But I do think it's time that we discuss maybe getting this guy out of St. Louis, getting him on a legit team, and you start to rebuild the Blues from scratch because they're kind of in a weird tweener situation. They have a few pieces from that cup run, but they don't have enough to kind of win the Stanley Cup again. And then, to kind of round off a few other trade talks just from the notes other than what has happened today, because I didn't have really much time to go into detail what's happened today. We got Simon Nemec, who was the 3rd overall pick in the Bedard draft. He's my age. Makes me feel something about myself. And Maxim Siklikov to the Flames. Very good haul for Calgary. Now, this is where it's like, what did Calgary give up? Because you would think the Flames gave up a lot to get this player, right? They gave up a 2026 second-round pick, a 2027 first-round pick, top 10 protected, by the way. Okay. So you're giving me a 3rd overall pick for a top 10 protected pick. Another 2028 first-round pick, top 10 protected. And that is the trade. What are we doing in New Jersey? What are we doing? Because that is a brutal trade. Because even if Calgary makes the playoffs and you get to keep that pick, it is you gave up a top 3 selection in the draft from 3 years ago, now. I mean, I know they didn't really they paid him. He has a contract, and you still traded him, and you might only get like a 22nd overall pick in the first round, and then you get that again in 2028 if they're a good team. I am not saying Calgary is going to be a good team, but if Calgary is going to stink it up, that Calgary's going to keep the pick, get a 3rd overall guy, and get 2 first-round picks in the top 10 if they're bad. It is a brutal trade from New Jersey. And then they kind of do another. I mean, I'd say it's fair value for the trade they made today with the Panthers. Florida gets Markstrom, and then they get Evan Rodriguez and another roster player. I think Rodriguez is going to fit well with the team because clearly they might even just go sign Bobrovsky, to be honest with you. But they don't really got like that much center depth, and Rodriguez adds to that center depth, and kind of well rounds them out. Sheldon Keefe is a smart head coach, and he knows how to make players produce even when they are coming off bad years, the way Rodriguez did come off of a bad year. If I'm Florida, though, like, everyone's jumping on that bandwagon. We're going back to Sunrise. They're winning another Stanley Cup because, man, they got a goalie who's proven himself to be elite in the past, going through some tough times right now, but he's proven to be an elite goalie, has a good D-core in front of him. I don't see a reason as to why not he's going to be an elite goaltender. So I know it's a bit of a longer segment. That was about 30 minutes straight of hockey. That's going to wrap it up, though, for the hockey segment. There's going to be more trades that happened today that I didn't cover today that I would like to get a little bit more detail on for you guys for next week. So next we're going to have some Blue Jays recap and MLB recap. Remember, you can follow us on the DCSA Media Hub on Ride Radio at Puck Pitches Pigskin Podcast. Same with our Instagram. And then coming up is how are those Blue Jays going to get back to 500? There's a lot of discussion that needs to be had about that. Welcome back to the Puck Pitches Pigskins podcast, live here from DCSA Media Hub on RiotRadio.ca. I am your host, Drake Varley, and that's how I feel about the Jays. Just a lot of big exhale, big sigh, because man, they just stink. I was kind of seeing a few tweets. Just the Jays had a lot of big breakout career years last season. Obviously, Vlad, I would call what he had not a career year because he did. Where is that stuff from 2021 is what I want to ask him. But like Clement's still keeping it up, but Springer had a resurgence year. The numbers aren't quite there this year, and Lucas, the numbers aren't quite there this year. The hitting is so inconsistent. Kirk is still pretty good, but I feel like it's just been one of those years where it's cursed. We just found out yesterday. Addison Barger is going to be out probably indefinitely, probably for the rest of the year, with a stress fracture on his back. Remember, he had an elbow injury, and now it's his back. And back is not good because your back, when you rotate, if you tweak it or if you hurt it, you're just not going to get the pop off your bat. You're not going to get the power. You're not going to get the contact rate. It kind of foils your swing a little bit. So kind of hoping he can recover, get the full off season to come back again. That's a big piece that they're missing. So, it's interesting because it's frustrating. That's why he's out for so long, and he's a very pivotal left-handed bat that the Jays need. Anyway, for the past week, as we talked about, it's a little weekly recap. Starting pitchers are going through it very early in games, man. The Jays, other than yesterday's game, gave up a run in the first inning for like 10 consecutive games. Like, they're just going through it early, and a lot of it's home runs or whether it's base hits or walks. It's just there's always something with the starting pitching that just gets hit around early in games, and I hope they can figure it out. I hope they really have a big rebounding kind of season because they deserve it, and I feel like us as fans want to explode for them to go back into the playoffs, but they need their starting pitching to be better to get us right back to the 500 level. We are 5 wins away from it, which we were at 500 like at this time last week. So it's frustrating. Another thing, the hitting kind of needs to come alive earlier than just the later innings. Vlad, can we please do something other than sit there and hover around the 280 mark with some walks and a little bit of RBI singles every now and again? Can we get going? Can we hit the ball? Like, come on, man. We're paying you a lot of money, and I really want to root for you, and I don't want to be the kind of guy who's negative towards you because you are such a tremendous athlete and a really good ball player. It's just like, come on, man. Like, get going. In my notes, I just have tough week to be a Jays fan because we got swept at home. I hate losing at home, especially in baseball, man. You have 50,000 fans on a weekend or, on a nice series before the weekend, weekend series before you welcome back Bichette. You have a nice stretch before Canada Day, and you're Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday against the Rangers, who are mediocre, a team that you could probably beat if you are not going to miss the playoffs. You get swept, and not only do you get swept, your offense doesn't come alive until like the 7th inning or later, when it's far too late because your pitching has given up 6 runs in the first inning. What are we doing? This is a team that last year would be either in command in games and then win, or they would be down and they would start chipping away by the 5th inning. Not the 7th, not the 8th, not the 9th. They would do it all from the 5th inning onward if they were behind in the game. That team is not with us right now. That is not the ball club I watch every afternoon or every evening. It is just not the same. And I really want to root for them, but the realistic side of my sports analytics kind of tell me they're not. They had way too many career years last season. I mean, I know Okamoto's having a good year, thank God, because if we didn't replace Bichette's bat, This team will be even worse. And there was a lot of talk about not replacing his bat in the offseason. So we got to figure it out. I need Tony Taters to come back and start hitting bombs. I need Barger to, tell that fracture in his back, it needs to go away because I need him back. I need his defense back. I need Springer to just one more year, Unk. You can leave after this season. So I need one more year of some good numbers. Get some home runs, some doubles, something. Play like a leadoff hitter. Ernie, I'm gonna need you to hit the weight room, bro, because we need some home runs. Like, we don't score home runs, and there was a year, like obviously 2016, we were one of the best teams for hitting home runs. But there was a year 5 years ago where we had two players with 40 plus home runs. We had a runner-up for MVP and a third place voting for MVP. Semien and Guerrero were like back to back for MVP voting. And then Shohei Ohtani had the best year of his career, so then that took away the MVP from Vlad. We need that again. I don't know what the locker room vibe was like then, but it needs to be there for the Jays this year. Again, I will mention, though, that 2021 season, a lot of it was in Buffalo. It was on a minor league stadium, so obviously for guys who were major league hitters, home runs are going to be a little bit easier to hit in a minor league stadium where the wall is 310, where more or less the wall in Rogers Center is 326 at the corner. So, again, but the kid was 21 years old. He was 22 years old. Like, you surely got to figure it out. Bichette coming back was nice. It was heartfelt. He was very emotional before the game. There was a TikTok posted by Sportsnet. You could see it anywhere, of him just kind of sobbing a little bit, tearing up before the game. Like, obviously, people think it's just the 7 years he spent within the organization of the majors. You got to remember, Kevin Biggio, who's no longer with us, but Vlad, Kevin Biggio, and Bichette spent 10 years of each other in the minors. 10 years. Through high A, double A, triple A, boom, majors. And they weren't able to get it done. And they weren't able to get Vlad, his best friend back. And it could be emotional. Especially, I'd be so emotional if I'm Bo Bichette, because I hit a 3-run home run in Game 7 of the World Series. We lose the World Series. And now here I am on the New York Mets, which I thought was going to be the greatest decision of my career. And my team stinks. And I'm playing third base, which is a position I don't normally play. It's a position I don't like to play. I was getting criticized for my defense at shortstop, and now I'm playing third base. And I'm in a pitcher's heavy ballpark, and I'm just not really hitting the way I used to. And now I have to come back and get a standing ovation from fans who would buy my jerseys and have my name on their back and have my back as a ball player. It could be super emotional, and I get a little emotional thinking about it. I'm not gonna cry, but it definitely is like, man, I feel for the guy because he loved being a Blue Jay. Now here's the thing: that nice standing ovation that we just gave him. Mitch Marner, we would never give that ovation to, but Bichette, we gave a nice standing ovation to. He has an opt-out. Come on, we just threw a bag at Vlad. Why don't we just take some more money and throw it at Bo, get him back here, make the World Series again, and we'll be all fine and dandy from there. I wish that's how it worked. I could see Bichette coming back. I just don't see Bichette wanting to get paid anything less than $42 million after getting paid by the Mets. So, again, today's game is going to be nice. Gosman on the hill, McLean on the hill from the Mets. I do think it's going to be a bit more of a better game to go to. Last night's game was snooze fest. We had a little league home run, an inside the park home run. They scored it as a home run. They scored it as a triple and then an air on Soto. Juan Soto, by the way, I'll speak about him a little bit in terms of MLB news because I have some analytics here after last night's game. He is one of the worst defensive baseball players in the history of the sport. In the history of baseball, he is one of the more he has some of the worst reads I've ever seen on a baseball. He has the worst noodle arm I've ever seen out of a left fielder. I know they're not necessarily known for having the craziest of arms, but he has got a noodle. And he's lazy. The effort that he was putting out on the after Springer, the ball got right by him. By the way, it's the first inning of the game. So, it's not like he's tired. It's not like it's a blowout. It is the first inning of the ball game, and he's already being lazy. I am so glad the Jays didn't sign him. I am very glad, because he's a lazy guy. He's got the biggest ego I've ever seen. He had the biggest ego even coming up into the major leagues. It was fun for a little bit, but now, man, it's just like you're pushing 30 years old, and you're have the ego bigger than molasses. Figure it out. Another player, though, that has kind of been a shock for me, other than Valenzuela, is Pinango. He's been hitting the ball really well. I'm surprised he got optioned in the first place. I think Davis Schneider getting optioned was kind of weird. Sean Key's just not really going to be ready for the major league pitching. He just doesn't look there. At least I watched that game against Texas. He just didn't quite look like he had it. This team will probably be sellers, though, at the deadline. The Jays most likely will be selling away assets at this trade deadline, just because it's just, we're not there. We're just not there. Again, this is not really a heavy baseball segment, just because there's so much going on with the NHL. My notes are pretty limited. But I will say, if the Jays do trade guys like Bieber, Shane Bieber does not look like the Shane Bieber we got. But again, I think he's still going through something. If you can move on from guys like Bieber, you can move on from, Gausman's a free agent, so you probably trade Gausman. You trade everyone who's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. Or if Gausman tells you he's going to retire, because there was talks about that at the beginning of the year. If Gausman goes out there and tells the entire media, okay, I'm done after this year, I'm going to retire. I want to retire Toronto Blue Jay. Okay, you keep him. Or you do the Kevin Kiermaier treatment. You ship him off to the Dodgers, where he will most likely win a championship again. And there you go. You did him a service. And then he comes back and becomes a pitching coach. That's what Kevin Kiermaier is doing. He's our center field coach in Double-A New Hampshire right now. So, again, short and sweet baseball segment. The Jays need to figure it out. If they don't have it figured out by the All-Star break, do not be surprised if we start seeing people get shipped off. And also don't be surprised if we don't go out there and get Tarek Skubal, because I know there was a lot of rumors of us going to get Skubal, and it's just not happening if we suck. So, like I mentioned earlier, you can follow us on the DCSA Media Hub on Riot Radio at the Puck Pitches Pigskins podcast. Same thing with our Instagram handle. It's just Puck Pitches Pigskins Pod. Clips are being posted on there regularly now. So if you guys have any suggestions as well for topics you want to have covered, or certain NHL topics, you can always just kind of comment on the Instagram posts, and I'm pretty proactive with reading it. Next up, we got the World Cup. It is continuously more entertaining. I will talk about that a little bit more as Canada goes to play in the round of 16. Welcome back to the Puck Pitches Pigskins podcast, live here from the DCSA Media Hub on Riot Radio. I am your host, Drake Varley. Again, as long as the World Cup is being played, I will talk about it over the CFL any day. No hate to the CFL. It's just, like I mentioned last time, this is the biggest cultural event in the world, and it's happening on our soil in Canada and the United States and Mexico. So as we kind of stand right now, the round of 32 has begun, and there are a few more games of the round of 32 that goes into July 3rd, so this Friday, and then after that, Saturday, round of 16. Canada plays at 1 p.m. on Saturday against Morocco, which, from what I've been hearing, that is a good thing, playing Morocco. I've had a little bit more time to research and get a little bit more acquainted with it. The Netherlands are apparently better than Morocco, and Morocco is like, if we beat Morocco and go to the round, round of 8? Apparently, we might be like the greatest nation to ever play the sport. No, I'm just kidding. But I will say the elimination sport, like the elimination aspect of this sport, is so much more entertaining than the round robin. I thought the round robin was entertaining. The Canada game, we'll start there. I was working at the time, and I had it on at work, and I was like, oh my, it's probably just going to go to extra time, because I know it's like overtime, but you still play if you score, and then it goes penalties if it's tied from there. Very weird, but again, getting used to it. With 92 minutes left in the game, or 92-minute mark, sorry, of the game, we score a goal late. I'm going to butcher pronouncing his name, so I'm not even going to try. But he is an absolute beautician now within Canadian sports. And it was a nice goal. I mean, it got me out of my seat at work. I almost got yelled at by my boss for how loud I was being. Again, this is the guy who's just starting to watch soccer, so if it's getting me up and out of my seats, it's clearly doing something right. And it's a cool thing for the nation, especially for us after losing, in the Olympics. It kind of helps us cling to something as a nation. And I see a lot of people before, I've seen World Cup 3 times, living in Durham and in Oshawa. And I've always seen people with Portugal flags or Swedish flags, or where their heritage is from. And it's really cool to see people repping Canada as a nation now instead of their heritage, or with their heritage even, just because it shows that the men's sport has grown so much. I know women's was always really good. Christine Sinclair, I'm pretty sure she's a Hall of Famer within the Canada national soccer program. And I know our women's team has always been good. They won gold at the Olympics, in the Summer Olympics a few years ago. They won gold, and they were a really, really wagon. I hope. If we match up with a team like Brazil, do I think we're gonna win? Probably not. But if we can win against Morocco, it really, really, really does become a possibility that we can win the championship as a whole. So the World Cup. I imagine the parade that the cities would have if we won the whole thing. It would be unreal. Toronto would nonstop go, and Vancouver nonstop. The whole nation. You would hear Saskatchewan from Ontario, and that's how much it would be. I'm gonna kind of go through some scores. I got obviously Canada 1-0 over South Africa. It's good on South Africa too. I heard they don't usually make they don't usually qualify for the World Cup, let alone the round of 32. So good on them. Very good kind of. I liked watching them play. They're a really good team, so very good on them. Congratulations to them for making it this far. Brazil beat Japan in comeback fashion. I knew Japan was good, but I also knew Brazil was good. Neymar didn't play a second, but he's also unk now. I'm pretty sure 34 years old for soccer is pretty old. And then Germany, and I think this is another upset. Germany and Paraguay in penalties, 4-3 in penalties. That is a lot of. Again, I guess penalties in soccer is you just kind of guess the direction the ball is going to go in, and if you guess wrong, well, there you are. Morocco and Netherlands 3-2 as well in penalties. And then that is all the final scores. But we do have a game going on right now. It's about to hit halftime right now. Norway and Cote d'Ivoire. I believe that's how you say that, or d'Ivoire. They're down. they're down 1-0 to Norway. I am so sorry if I'm butchering any of your guys' heritage or even your home countries. I am so sorry. And then today we got France and Sweden. That's going to be a really good game. Unfortunately, I have a little bit of German in me, and they're done. And I also have a little bit of Swedish in me, and I think they're going to be done because Mbappe. And then later tonight, Ecuador and Mexico. I have a bunch of buddies who got some Latina and Mexican heritage, and they're going to go crazy. They already got the Coronas ready to go. So that's going to be interesting. I think Mexico is going to beat Ecuador. I think that one's kind of a toss up for me, at least from my knowledge. I mean, I'm pretty sure Mexico. I'm going to say Mexico's going to come out on top. France will obviously beat Sweden, and as of right now, as we're sitting at half, I think Norway will beat that country, and we're just gonna say, I want to say something. Their striker, Norway striker, most entertaining guy I've ever seen in my life. Like, he is a different being of human, and I love it. Like, I am here for it because he's so entertaining. He has Snapchat. I follow him on Snapchat now, and he just posts the most like obscene stuff that you wouldn't think a professional athlete would just do, and he just does it. I seen a TikTok about him, and the top comment was, bro's mom put him in soccer just to get him out of the house for an hour. And yeah, that is the kind of energy he has. He reminds me of me at like 9 years old, but except he's getting paid millions of dollars to play soccer. And then tomorrow on Canada Day, it's actually a nice slate for tomorrow's games. Before I wrap up, we got England and DR Congo. I know a lot of people gonna be repping the English on that one. Belgium and Senegal, that's also a nice game. And then I guess fireworks will be popping off at halftime of this game, USA and Bosnia. I didn't think USA was good like that. I hope they lose because it's USA. Sorry, you beat us in the Olympics. You got to lose in the World Cup. That's going to kind of wrap it up here, though, for our show today. I mean, there's a lot to discuss moving forward with the MLB. Baseball will start to pick up now because it is almost trade deadline time. Next episode as well, we'll be 7 days in the free agency, so there's going to be a lot of signings to talk about for the NHL. And then I'm pretty sure by next show we should be either starting or just finishing the round of 16 in the World Cup. I know it starts on Saturday, so it should just be finishing by the time of next show. We can talk round of 8. But like I said, I always mention you can follow us at the DCSA Media Hub, at the Puck Pitches Pigskins podcast. You can also do that same handle on our Instagram. And if you guys want the full VODs, there's also a YouTube channel that had the VODs on there. So if you miss an episode live, you can always just play back and watch it. Thank you guys for joining us today. This was the Puck Pitches Pigskins podcast, and I am your host, Drake Varley, and I'll see you next week.